Hi there everybody, welcome to another Maths School video. We're going to look today at cumulative frequency. I'm going to start off by looking at the tables, then we'll look at the graphs, and then we'll look at how to kind of interpret them. So the three-step kind of process. Let's get going. So cumulative frequency means you're totaling the frequencies as you go down the table to create a running total. All right, you'll see what that means in a minute. But cumulative meaning you accumulate something, so you're going to keep going up and up and up. And I'll talk about that as we kind of go through the table. But in essence, what you tend to get in an exam, you tend to get a table half given, and you might be asked to just draw one. So sometimes they give you the gap, sometimes they don't. All right, but we'll talk about that as we kind of go through. You'll understand what I mean in a minute. All right, so I've got an example. So we've got an example of a table. So let's just interpret the table first of all, so we understand what it's talking about. So it looks like we're looking at an age, and then clearly a question has been asked about either the number of people in that age bracket, or maybe some people kind of support them who fit within that bracket. I don't really know the ins and outs of it, but clearly it's about people's ages and the number of people in those age brackets. All right. So let's just kind of focus on a couple of little bits first of all in here about the kind of notation. All right, so between 0 and 20, all right, so this little less than or equal to, that means anyone who's 20 would fit into this bracket, all right? Because this says greater than 20 here, that means anyone who's 21 plus will go into this bracket, all right? But you'll notice these two numbers are the same, but 20 goes into this one, and 20 plus, so anyone over 20 to 21 really, goes this one. But they use these little symbols, and you'll see this an awful lot in tables when they're using what we call continuous data. Is the your age doesn't kind of stop at halfway between, so you might be 20 and a day, and therefore you would fit into this one. Whereas you're 19 and 364 days, you would fit into this one. Anyway, right. So this is our table. Right, if we're asked to do cumulative frequency, this is about kind of accumulating numbers as we go. So we need another column. All right, and sometimes you're given it, sometimes you're not. Sometimes you have to put it in, sometimes you don't. But in this case, if we're asked for cumulative frequency, then I've got a job to do. And this column that we just kind of added there is the first column that's going to give you a set of marks. All right, so we're now going to accumulate the numbers as we go. So what we're going to look at is the first one. So between 0 and 20, there are 6 people. All right, and that's quite the easy one. That's the easiest one. All right, we are then going to look about the idea of thinking, well, if I keep adding as I go between 0 and 40, that means it's going to be both these two added together, which is going to give me 6 plus 8, which gives me 14. All right, so now between 0 and 40, we've got 14, so it's accumulating as we go. The next one, we're going to look at between 0 and 60. All right, between 0 and 60, that's this one, and this one. So we now need to add on 16 to this number, all right, which gives us 14 plus 16, which gives us 30. And then we're going to repeat. So we're now going to look at between 0 and 80. So we've got now an additional 25, which needs to go onto that one. So that would give us 30 plus 25, giving us 55. Happy so far, hopefully. And then finally, between 0 and 100, and that's everybody, then we need to add on this last little number, which is 5, so that is 60 in total. All right, so if we now look at the table, we can now safely say that there are 60 people who have been assessed in this survey or asked the question. There are 60 people in these age ranges, and most of them fit between 60 and 80, which is quite old really, but we've got some really kind of old people at the kind of top. But that's our age range, all right? That's our age range, and that's us animals, so 60 people in total. All right, so that is using the cumulative frequency table. All right, so that's the first step. Okay. Now the next part of it is about using that. All right, and this is where the graph kind of comes into play, and this is where you've got to be very, very careful. Right, cumulative frequency, as you can saw from the information, it went up and up and up and up. All right, it can continue to grow. So you would expect our graph to continue to grow, and how it grows tends to take the same shape all the time. All right, and you will see that as we do this one. So to plot a cumulative frequency, this is kind of key. You must use the upper bound of the group. All right, and I will explain that as we do it. As the cumulative frequency is the total of each group. All right, so we'll go through this in a second. So cumulative frequency goes on the y-axis. So very much like every other chart we've kind of done, frequency tends to be on the left-hand side, and it will definitely be on this one. And then the numbers on the bottom, well, if you think about the one we just did a couple of minutes ago, well, that was ages, so ages will go along the bottom, and And again, you will find that this type of data is continuous data because there are no gaps in between it, and it continues to kind of grow all the way. All right, so it's likely to be time or age or something along those, like speed or distance, or something that's a continuous type of data. If you're not sure what continuous data is, then please again look at one of our other videos about continuous data and look into it in more depth. But this will be continuous data used. The points are joined with a smooth S-shaped curve. All right, so you'll see that in a second. I think it looks personally more like an F, a slanty F, but you'll see what I mean when we're going to get there. All right. Right, so this is the data we had a couple of minutes ago. 0 and 20, 20, 40, 40, 60, 60 and 80, and 80 and 100. And of course, we're going up to 60. All right, so in terms of what we put on these axes, well, we talk about the cumulative frequency here going on the y-axis. So that needs to go that bit. So that needs to go up to 60. And then on the x-axis along the bottom, well, that needs to be our age range. So it needs to go to 0 to 100. So again, planning your graph very, very carefully if you're doing it on paper. However, in the exam, you will probably tend to find that an awful lot kind of the size of the graph it will tend to be given, and it might even give you the details already kind of there. But we don't, so let's kind of put them in. All right, so labeling it as you would expect. So you've got the data on the bottom and age labeled, and cumulative frequency given on the left-hand side. And again, making sure you do those kind of things is something else to be wary of when you're thinking about exams, trying to make sure that if they are kind of assessing the graph, that you are labelling them correctly, because again, it might be an unnecessary mark that you would forget and you will potentially lose, and of course we can't be affording any of that. Right, we're now going to plot it. We are plotting it based on these numbers here, the 6, 14, 30, 50 and 65. Right, the key bit which was mentioned at the beginning is where you plot them. Now the temptation is, where do I plot the 6? Do I plot it between 0 and 20 or 10, maybe in the middle? Well, think about what we're talking about. We're talking about basically up to 20, there are 6. Up to 40, there are 14. So it's the top end we're looking at. And from up to 100, that's where we got to 60. So it's always the top end, all right, the upper bound. And that's what this bit here is talking about, the upper bound of the group, all right. So let's go and plot them. So for the first one, the 6, you can see from here, at 20, it's gone to 6. And obviously it's a bit of an estimate because of the size of the graph. And then the 14 is going to go where 40 is. So again, you notice at the top end of the range. And then the next one's going to be at 30, next one at 55, and the next one at 60. All right. And again, at 100, you notice it goes right to the top. So we've got this kind of shape. All right. So this is what it's here says S. I think it's a bit more like an F. Helps me to remember because it's cumulative frequency with an F. Anyway, and then what we need here, and again, very, very careful here. This is not an exact science. It's not a straight line. All right. It is a curve. Okay. Big, big point. It's going to make a curve. It will go right up to the top. And because we go right down to 0, this goes right down to 0. So for example, if this number here was 10, then this graph should go to 10. All right, again, quite an important kind of fact, all right, because we need to understand where it starts, when it doesn't. For example, we don't know. It suggests it goes to 0, so there might be a baby or something down here, all right. If it started at 10 or 15, or for example, then I'd have to change this so it only went to here. So I'd have 15 and then 0 there, all right, so it'd change a little bit. So just be careful of, use the numbers that are on the graph. Is that all right? And then you're done. That's it. So that's your graph. So you need the table first of all to get these numbers here. And then you've got to plot them very, very carefully, making sure you use the upper round and making sure you label it. All right. Right, the last little bit of a frequency graph is then, of course, using it. You know, what's the point in drawing it if you don't then are able to interpret it? Well, if you haven't looked at box plots yet, then you might want to look at box plots as another lesson. Because we are going to try and read the graph to find the median and the quartiles. Now, the median and the quartiles fit very, very, very handsomely with box plots in terms of where that looks. And you sometimes see a cumulative frequency graph and a box plot drawn one above each other. Well, the cumulative frequency at the top and a box plot underneath, because there's a direct, obviously, correlation between the two. You'll see that in a second. So the median is half the total cumulative frequency. All right, and the lower quartile is a quarter, and the upper quartile is 3/4. So let's just think about this for a second. So ask me to find the quartiles first of all. Well, let's just look at what numbers we've got. How many people did we ask or find out the age was? Well, it was 60. All right, so this number here is the one we're focused on. All right, the 60, not the 100. All right, not the 100. Very, very important. You're not looking for the 25 there and the 75 there. That's wrong. Right, we're looking for the cumulative frequency. So the halfway mark of the 60 people will be at the 30. Okay, so if I'm looking for the quartiles, then the quarter value was going to be at 15, so that value there, and the other value is going to be at 45, so that number there. All right, so the total is 60, and they'll see me doing this. The median is halfway, and it's not asked me for any other than the quartiles at this point. But anyway, so let's just follow what it says on the screen. So you've got the median, which is 30, so that's the one in the middle. It goes down there, and that's going to give me a value of 60. So the median value is 60. All right, and there you go. Median is 60. The lower quartile, which I mentioned a minute ago, is the 15th value, so that's going to be that. So I reckon that is 40. Come on. 41. Oh, it's close. All right. There will be some kind of discrepancy kind of awarded in exam. So if you're slightly off by 1 or 2, I think you'll be okay. But I guess the lesson learned here from me is just try and make it as accurate as you can. All right. When you're drawing a nice smooth curve, just try and be a little bit more accurate. And clearly, I'm not. But 41, close enough. And the upper quartile, well, upper quartile one is going to be the 45th value, so that's going to be this value, and it's going to read it there, where my kind of cursor is currently. I'm just wondering what that will be. Well, it just looks underneath 70, so I'm going to go for 68. Let's see what it gives. Oh, look at that, 68, pure perfect. All right, so that, and then drawing that. So don't be shy in an exam about putting these lines on your graph. They would expect to see them. They want to know where you're getting the numbers from, or they know how you kind of achieve them. All right, so it's really important you do go to the line and you go back down, and then you read them carefully, probably more carefully than I did, off the graph. All right. Last question, of course, and again, if you've done box plots, you'll understand what this IQR means. If you've not, it stands for interquartile range. So that's the gap between the two quartiles. So 68 and 41, which are given. So 68 take away 41, which is a nice round 27. All right, so that is what cumulative frequency graph. So you're looking at plotting it, you're looking at getting the tables together, you're looking at rounding it, and then from there, you may well be asked about finding the median, lower quartile, upper quartile, and quartile range, and that's very, very, very well linked with box plots and what that kind of means. So it would not surprise me if you have both of these kind of things together in an exam, and you're asked the questions based on those things in the exam. All right. Well, that's it. That's cumulative frequency for you guys. If you need to feel you need to practice, and by all means visit maths-school.co.uk. There's lots of kind of questions on there, and like I said before, it is free to access, and there's all kind of resources and stuff for you to kind of have a good go at. All right. But of course, if you like the video, please share and like it beneath. All right. Thank you.